The mountains looked beautiful in the brochure, snow-covered peaks stretching endlessly into a perfect blue sky, pine forests thick and untouched, a rustic cabin promising peace and solitude far from the chaos of city life. That's what brought us here. My girlfriend Emma and I needed an escape desperately. The city had drained us dry with its endless demands, work pressures crushing us daily, traffic that stole hours of our lives, the constant noise pressing against our skulls like a vice. We wanted silence. We wanted to breathe again. We wanted to remember what it felt like to be human instead of machines. The cabin listing was absolutely perfect. Remote location with no neighbors for miles. Wood burning, fireplace and panoramic mountain views. Fully equipped kitchen and comfortable beds. The photos showed a charming log structure surrounded by pristine wilderness. The host's name was Marcus. His messages were brief but polite and professional. Key under the mat. Enjoy the tranquility. Make yourselves at home. There was something odd about that word though. Tranquility. The way he emphasized it in every message felt deliberate. Like a warning disguised as a welcome. Like he was trying to tell us something without actually saying it. We arrived on Friday afternoon as the sun began its descent. The drive up the mountain had taken 3 hours of winding roads. Sheer drops on one side, dense forest on the other. No cell signal for the last hour. The last town we passed was 40 minutes behind us. A tiny place with one gas station and suspicious locals. When we finally saw the cabin, Emma smiled for the first time in weeks. It's exactly like the photos, she said with genuine relief. And it was. Log walls weathered to a beautiful great wide porch with rocking chairs, forest surrounding it like a dark embrace. But something felt wrong immediately upon arrival. The air was too still, not peaceful, oppressive. The silence wasn't the comfortable quiet we'd anticipated. It was heavy, watchful, waiting for something. I tried to shake the feeling as I grabbed our bags. Just nerves, I told myself firmly. City boy, afraid of quiet, paranoid from too many horror movies. Emma was already unloading bags from the car. Her breath made clouds in the frozen air. I grabbed our suitcases and followed her inside. The cabin smelled of pine and something else underneath. Something musty, organic, almost animal. The scent came and went with the wind currents. Emma didn't seem to notice anything wrong. She was already exploring the rooms with childlike excitement. Look at this fireplace, she called out from the living room. We could roast marshmallows tonight, just like we planned. I forced a smile and started unpacking our things. The interior was rustic, but comfortable as promised. Wooden furniture dark with age. Thick rugs covering cold floors. Oil lamps alongside electric lights for ambience. A kitchen with cast iron pans hanging from hooks. Everything felt authentic, deliberately old-fashioned, like stepping back in time to a simpler era. I noticed there was no television, no Wi-Fi router visible, no landline phone on the walls. Just us and the mountain's silence. Emma found a note on the kitchen counter, written in careful script. It was handwritten on thick paper that felt expensive. Welcome to my home. Please respect the land and its inhabitants. The forest is beautiful, but unforgiving to those who disrespect it. Stay on marked trails during your explorations. Don't wander after sunset for your own safety. The full moon brings changes to these mountains that outsiders don't understand. Enjoy your stay and the tranquility you seek. Marcus. Emma laughed when she read it aloud. He's really selling the wilderness experience, she said with amusement. But I noticed the paper trembled slightly in her hand. And I noticed she didn't laugh as freely as usual. That first evening passed in quiet comfort that felt almost normal. We lit the fire and watched flames dance, made dinner together in the unfamiliar kitchen, opened wine and tried to relax into vacation mode. The flames cast dancing shadows across the walls in mesmerizing patterns. Outside, darkness fell like a curtain being drawn. Complete and absolute darkness we never experienced in the city. No car headlights, no glow from distant houses or buildings, just blackness pressing against the windows like something physical. Emma curled up beside me on the couch. This is perfect, she whispered against my shoulder. No work emails, no responsibilities, no obligations, just us together. I kissed her forehead and tried to relax my tense muscles, but I couldn't stop listening to the sounds outside. The silence outside wasn't empty at all. It was filled with small sounds that seemed amplified. Wind moving through branches with a whistling sound. Snow sliding off the roof in soft thuds. And something else beneath it all. something rhythmic and deliberate that didn't fit, like footsteps circling the cabin in a slow patrol. I told myself it was my imagination running wild, animals foraging, wind patterns, settling, wood expanding and contracting. But my body knew better than my rational mind. Every muscle was tense, alert, waiting for something I couldn't name. My hands kept clenching into fists without conscious thought. Emma fell asleep around 11 o'clock, exhausted from the drive. I carried her to the bedroom gently, tucked her under thick quilts that smelled of lavender. She looked peaceful, vulnerable, trusting. I stood there watching her breathe in the dim light and realized how isolated we truly were here. No neighbors within shouting distance, no phone to call for help, no way to reach anyone if something went wrong. If something happened, we were completely alone. Stop it, I told myself firmly. You're being paranoid and ridiculous. Nothing is going to happen here. This is a vacation. But I checked the door locks anyway with careful attention. Then the window latches one by one. Then the locks again to be certain. I couldn't sleep no matter how hard I tried. Every sound felt magnified in the darkness around me. The cabin creaking as it cooled, the fire dying to embers, the wind outside. And beneath it all, that rhythm continued. Footsteps that weren't footsteps, breathing that wasn't breathing, a presence circling and watching. At 2:15 in the morning, I heard it clearly, scratching at the front door. Not frantic, like fingers tracing the wood grain carefully, like something learning the texture and structure. I sat up in bed, heart pounding against my ribs. Emma didn't stir beside me. The scratching continued for exactly 1 minute, then stopped abruptly. Silence rushed back in like water filling a void. I waited, listening, barely breathing, every sense straining. Then came the sound at the bedroom window. The same scratching pattern, testing, learning, curious about what lay beyond. I wanted to look. I wanted to see what was out there. But something primal stopped me from moving. Some ancient survival instinct screaming, "Don't look. Don't let it know you're awake. Don't acknowledge its presence." The scratching moved to the next window methodically, then the next, circling the cabin in a deliberate pattern, taking inventory of every entrance and exit. When it finally stopped, dawn was still hours away. I lay there in the darkness, listening to Emma's peaceful breathing, and wondering what had just marked us as prey. Morning came slowly with grey light filtering through windows, grey light filtering through frost-covered windows. Emma woke up smiling and stretching. "Best sleep I've had in months," she said happily. I didn't tell her about the scratching sounds. What would I say to her? That I heard something in the night circling us, that I was afraid of shadows and sounds. She'd think I was being ridiculous and paranoid. Or worse, she'd believe me completely. And I didn't want her to be afraid. Not yet. Not until I knew what we were dealing with. We made breakfast together in comfortable silence. Eggs and bacon sizzling. Strong coffee brewing. Normal domestic routines in an abnormal place. "Let's explore the trails today," Emma suggested enthusiastically. "Get some fresh air and exercise. Take photos for our friends." I agreed, despite my misgivings. Maybe daylight would dispel the dread I felt. Maybe I'd see that everything was normal and safe. Just a cabin. Just a forest. Just my imagination playing tricks. We bundled up in warm clothes and layers, grabbed walking sticks from the porch. The morning was crisp and beautiful beyond description. Sunlight sparkled on fresh snow like diamonds. The forest looked like a postcard or painting. We followed a trail that wound into the trees. Emma walked ahead, taking pictures with her phone. I stayed close behind her, watching the trees, watching the shadows between them, watching for movement. That's when we found the first marker driven into the ground, a wooden post weathered by time and elements, carved with deep scratches forming crude words. "Turn back." The letters were rough but unmistakable in their meaning. Emma stopped and stared at it in confusion. "Probably just kids," she said uncertainly, trying to scare hikers as a prank. But her voice lacked conviction, but her hands trembled slightly. We kept walking despite the warning. The trail grew narrower as we went deeper. Trees pressed closer on both sides. The sunlight seemed dimmer here somehow, filtered through too many branches overhead. We found the second marker 50 yards later. Last warning. This time the letters were deeper, angrier, carved with something sharp and strong and furious. Emma looked back at me with worry in her eyes. "Maybe we should turn around," she said quietly. I agreed immediately, without hesitation. We started back toward the cabin quickly. That's when we heard the howl echo through the trees. Not a wolf, not a coyote, not any animal I recognized. Something between animal and human vocal cords. A sound of pain and rage twisted together. It echoed through the trees from every direction, coming from everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. "Run," I said, grabbing her hand. We ran through the forest. Branches whipped at our faces, leaving scratches. Snow pulled at our boots, making progress difficult. Behind us, something crashed through the underbrush. Heavy, fast, gaining ground with every second. I didn't look back at all. I grabbed Emma's hand tighter and pulled her forward. The cabin appeared through the trees ahead. We burst out of the forest into the clearing, sprinted across the open space, exposed and vulnerable, slammed the door behind us hard. I locked it, bolted it, shoved furniture against it desperately. Emma stood in the center of the room, breathing hard, face pale as snow. "What was that?" she whispered with terror. "I don't know," I admitted honestly. We waited by the window, watching the tree line where shadows moved. Nothing emerged into the clearing. The forest was still and silent, as if nothing had happened at all, as if we'd imagined everything. But we both knew what we'd heard. We both knew something was hunting. We spent the afternoon inside, pretending everything was fine, pretending to read books we couldn't focus on, pretending to relax in chairs that felt like traps. Really, just watching the windows constantly, waiting for movement, waiting for that sound again. As sunset approached, Emma finally spoke the truth. "We should leave," she said firmly. "First thing tomorrow morning. I'll drive all night if I have to." I agreed immediately, but we both knew tomorrow was hours away, and night was coming fast. The sun set at 4:30. Darkness swallowed the mountain in minutes. We built the fire high and bright, turned on every light in the cabin, made dinner we barely touched, and waited for what would come. The scratching started at 8 o'clock exactly. This time it was louder than before, more insistent, more demanding, not just at the door anymore, at every window, every wall, surrounding us completely in a coordinated pattern. Emma grabbed my hand desperately. Her fingers were ice cold despite the fire. "What does it want?" she whispered. The scratching stopped suddenly, leaving ringing silence. In the silence that followed, we heard footsteps, heavy boots on the wooden porch, walking slowly toward the door with purpose. Then a knock, 3 slow, deliberate strikes against the wood. Emma and I froze, completely unable to move. A voice came from outside, familiar and wrong. "Hello, is someone home?" A voice called out. It was Marcus, our host from the messages. But something about his voice was wrong. Too flat, too empty of emotion. Like someone reading lines without understanding them. Like an imitation of humanity. Emma looked at me with wide eyes. "Should we answer?" She mouthed silently. I shook my head firmly. The note said, "Don't wander after dark." Why would he be here now? What reason could he have? The knock came again, harder this time. "I know you're in there," the voice said calmly. "I can hear your heartbeats through the walls. I can smell your fear on the wind. Let me in." Emma's breath caught in her throat. "That's not human," she whispered urgently. The door handle rattled violently, testing the lock with force. Then the scratching resumed with renewed fury. But this time it was different, more purposeful. The sound of claws digging into wood, splintering it layer by layer, breaking through to reach us. We backed away from the door slowly. I grabbed a poker from the fireplace. Emma pulled a kitchen knife from the block. Useless weapons against something we couldn't understand. Useless against something that smelled fear. The scratching grew louder and more violent, more frantic and desperate. Wood cracked and groaned under assault. The door was giving way inch by inch. "We need to hide," I said urgently. "Where?" Emma's voice was breaking with panic. "The bathroom." No windows there, only one door. We ran through the cabin in terror, squeezed into the tiny bathroom together, locked the flimsy door that wouldn't stop anything, sat in the bathtub holding each other, held each other and listened in darkness, listened to our fate approaching. The front door splintered open with a crash. We heard it crash inward violently, furniture scraping across the floor as it was pushed aside, then footsteps inside the cabin at last. Not walking, stalking, moving from room to room with purpose, searching methodically for its prey. The footsteps stopped outside the bathroom door. Emma buried her face in my chest. I held the poker with shaking hands. The door handle turned slowly, testing. "I know you're in here," the voice said patiently, but now it wasn't trying to sound human anymore. It was a growl shaped into words. "You can't hide from what you are, what we are," I whispered in confusion. Silence answered me for a long moment. Then the scratching started again on the bathroom door. On the bathroom door, inches from our faces. Long, deep gouges in the wood, carving through wood like paper. Emma was crying silently against me. I kissed her head gently. "If this is it," I whispered to her, "I love you with everything." The door splintered under the assault. Claws punched through the wood, long, black, impossibly sharp like blades. They withdrew slowly. Then the door exploded inward in pieces, and we saw it standing in the doorway. Standing in the doorway, filling the frame completely. It looked like Marcus from the messages, but stretched, distorted beyond recognition. His body was too long for any human. His limbs bent at wrong angles. His face was almost human in structure, except for the mouth that was wrong, which opened wide, impossibly, revealing rows of teeth that belonged to no mammal. His eyes glowed yellow in the darkness, pupils like slits watching us hungrily. "You shouldn't have come here," it said clearly. The voice was Marcus's underneath, but layered with something else ancient. Something ancient and hungry and patient. "This is my territory," it continued slowly. "My hunting ground for decades. The cabin, the listings online, the perfect isolation strategy. You delivered yourselves to me willingly." Emma screamed at the sight, a raw sound of pure terror. The creature smiled at her scream, its face splitting impossibly wide with pleasure. "I've been doing this for decades," it said proudly, luring prey with promises of peace, feeding on fear, on flesh, on screams in the dark. "You're not the first couple, you won't be the last." It stepped into the bathroom toward us. I swung the poker with everything I had. The metal passed through empty air. The creature moved too fast to track. One moment in the doorway, the next, standing over us in the tub, claws reaching down toward our throats. Emma swung the knife desperately. It caught the creature's arm, drawing blood. Black blood sprayed across white tiles. The creature shrieked in genuine pain, a sound that shattered the bathroom mirror. It recoiled, clutching the wound. "Silver," it hissed with hatred. "The knife is silver." I looked at the blade in Emma's hand. The handle was old, tarnished with age, but definitely sterling silver. Emma stared at it with realization, then at the creature bleeding. Then she lunged forward, drove the blade deep into its chest. The creature's scream became a howl. It stumbled backward violently, crashing into the hallway. Black blood poured from the wound, smoking where it hit the floor. "Run!" Emma shouted at me. We bolted past the thrashing creature, through the destroyed living room, out into the frozen night beyond. Snow and darkness and terror. We ran toward the car. "Keys, ... Where are the keys?" Emma's pocket, her hands shaking too much. She couldn't get them out fast. Behind us, the cabin door exploded. The creature emerged into the night, wounded but not dying, rage burning in its yellow eyes. It dropped to all fours and charged at us. I grabbed the keys from Emma, opened the driver's door, shoved her inside roughly, followed immediately, locked the doors, started the engine, praying. The creature slammed into the car. The entire vehicle rocked violently. Claws scraped across metal, leaving deep gouges. I threw it in reverse, floored the accelerator desperately. We shot backward down the driveway. The creature tumbled off the hood. I spun the wheel hard, shifted into drive. We rocketed down the mountain road, headlights cutting through absolute darkness. In the rearview mirror, I saw it, standing in the middle of the road, watching us go with those eyes, not chasing us anymore, just watching, not even trying to pursue, because it knew something we didn't. We drove for hours without speaking. Neither of us spoke a single word. Emma's hands were covered in black blood. The knife lay on the floor between us. When we finally reached town, the sun was rising. We drove straight to the police station, stumbled inside looking like trauma victims, told them everything that had happened. The detective listened patiently, taking notes. His expression never changed throughout the story. When we finished, he closed his notebook. "That's quite a story," he said skeptically. "We can send someone to check it out. What's the address exactly?" Emma gave him the listing information. The detective typed it into his computer, frowned at the screen. "There's no property registered at that address," he said flatly. "No cabin, no owner named Marcus in our system." "That's impossible," I protested. "We were just there hours ago." "Show me the listing then." Emma pulled out her phone quickly, opened the app we'd used. The listing was gone completely. Marcus's profile was gone from the platform. All our messages deleted from history, as if it had never existed at all. The detective watched us carefully now. "You two been drinking?" he asked suspiciously. "Maybe some bad mushrooms on the hike. The mountains can play tricks on city people." "We weren't hallucinating," Emma said firmly. She held up her hands to show him, still stained with black blood from the creature. The detective leaned forward, studying them. "Looks like grease to me," he said dismissively. "Maybe oil from your car leaking." We left without arguing further. There was no point in continuing. No one would believe us ever. We drove back to the city in silence, back to our apartment and familiar surroundings, back to the life we'd wanted to escape, but nothing was the same anymore. Emma started researching obsessively. Missing persons in that area, unsolved disappearances over the decades. There were dozens of cases, couples, solo hikers, families with children, all vanished without a trace, all in the same general region, all around the full moon consistently. She found old newspaper articles from the 1950s, the 1920s, even earlier than that. Stories of a creature in the mountains, a shifter, a predator that walked like a man. Local legends, native warnings ignored, all dismissed as superstition by authorities. But we knew better than everyone. We'd seen it with our own eyes, felt its claws, smelled its breath, heard it speak with a human voice. Emma couldn't sleep anymore at all. Every shadow was a threat. Every sound was footsteps approaching. She started carrying the silver knife everywhere, never left home without it hidden. I tried to move on with life, tried to pretend it was over, that we were safe in the city. But I knew the truth deep down. Predators don't give up easily. They hunt, they wait, they remember prey that escaped. 3 weeks after our escape, I woke up at 3 a.m. Emma wasn't in bed beside me. I found her standing at the window, staring down at the street below. "What's wrong?" I asked, approaching her. She pointed without speaking. Under the streetlight stood a figure, tall, too tall for any human, wearing a long coat and hat. But the proportions were wrong somehow. The shadow it cast didn't match. It was looking up at our window, directly at our window specifically. I couldn't see its face clearly, but I knew those eyes, yellow and burning with recognition. "It's found us," Emma whispered. We moved the next day immediately. New apartment, new neighborhood across town. Didn't tell anyone where we were going. Paid cash for everything. Left no digital trail to follow. For 2 months, we felt safe again. Then Emma came home early from work one day. Found a note under our door, handwritten on thick paper. I remembered the same paper from the cabin. The note said only 3 words. "I found you." We ran again that same night. Different city this time. Across state lines. New identities. New jobs. Always watching over our shoulders. Always listening for footsteps. That was 6 months ago now. Tonight, Emma is working late at her new job. I'm home alone in our apartment, and I just heard scratching at the door. Slow, methodical, familiar pattern. I'm holding the silver knife tightly, the only weapon that hurt it before. But I know it's not enough anymore. You can't kill a legend with silver. You can't escape something that's been hunting these mountains for centuries. Emma will come home to find this account. I'm leaving it for her to discover, so she knows what happened to me, so she knows to keep running, to never stop running, ever. Because the creature from the cabin isn't just a monster. It's patient, it's intelligent beyond measure, and it always finishes the hunt eventually. The scratching has stopped now. Now there's a knock instead. 3 slow, deliberate strikes, and a voice I recognize too well. "Hello," it says softly. "I've missed you both." The door handle is turning slowly. I didn't lock it when I came in. I forgot that simple step. One simple mistake after months of caution. That's all it takes to die. The door is opening inward. I can see its shadow growing larger on the wall, filling the room with presence. "Emma, if you find this account, run as far as you can. Never stop running from it. And whatever you do, please, don't come looking for me, because what it does to those who fight back is so much worse than death." It's standing in front of me now, smiling with that impossible mouth, its claws reaching out toward me. I'm raising the knife one last time, one last desperate attempt, but we both know how this ends. The creature leans close to me. Its breath smells like rotting meat and pine. "Thank you for running," it whispers intimately. "The chase made you taste so much better." This is where my account ends forever, where my story becomes his story. Another missing person for the files. Another cold case. Another warning ignored by those who come after. If you're planning a trip to remote mountains, if you find a perfect listing promising solitude, if the host emphasizes words like tranquility, remember this story I've written. Remember Emma and me. Remember that some places are isolated for a reason. Some silences hide teeth, and some hosts are hungrier than you can imagine. The scratching you hear at night might not be branches. The footsteps circling your cabin might not be animals. And the voice calling your name in the darkness might be something that already knows your taste. Emma, I'm sorry for everything. I should have locked the door. I should have been more careful. Keep the knife close always. Keep running forever. And maybe, someday, you'll find a way to kill it before it finds someone else. Before it finds you again. The creature's claws are on my shoulders now. Cold, sharp, patient as stone. It's been waiting for this moment. Since the second we escaped. No one escapes forever from it. Everyone's hunt ends eventually. Mine ends here in this room. In an apartment far from the mountains, but still within reach somehow, because distance means nothing at all. To something that's been hunting since before cities existed. My last thought is of Emma, her smile that first morning, before the scratching started, before the terror began, when we still believed in safe places. There are no safe places, only hunting grounds you haven't recognized yet. If you want to hear what waits in the places marked with warnings, subscribe before it learns your name.